Okay, now we're getting into looking at subtracting our integers with modeling, and specifically modeling with our number lines. Now, the directions do say that your homework tonight, like numbers 1 to 5, will be to subtract and, of course, show it by modeling on a number line. But I'm hoping you remember from our other lesson that subtraction means what? Remember, we said, most people like to add more than they like to subtract. And we said that's great because actually subtraction means add the opposite. Add the opposite. That's what we've learned. So that can help us with our subtracting, turning it actually into an addition problem. So with our step 1, exactly what it says, I want you to go ahead and rewrite any of that subtraction that you see as add the opposite. Remember, it's add the opposite of the second integer. So when I look at this problem, -3 minus or subtract means add the opposite of that second integer. So this subtraction actually becomes adding, becomes an addition sign, as long as you change that second integer to its opposite. So we're going to go ahead and rewrite that as -3, change the subtracting to adding, and that +7 now becomes a -7. So now we have our new problem. -3 minus 7 is the same thing as -3 plus -7. And now we're going to do just like what we did the other day with our adding. And that is 1, draw a number line. Well, the number line's there for you. And I also told you to make sure that you look to see how they are counting. Here's my 0, skip 1, and here's -2, skip. Okay, so they're counting by ones. I always pay attention to that before I get started. Now we can go ahead and look at step 3. And that step 3 says we always start with our first integer. So our starting point again is that first integer, which is -3. So we're going to go and see that -3, which would be right between the -2 and the -4. And we put that dot right above the -3 to show our starting point. Now that we've started, we're going to use our second integer to tell us the direction we're going to be moving. And it says right here in our steps that if that is a positive, we're going to go ahead and move to the right. Right if it is positive. But we will move left if it is negative. And we always do the number of spaces of that integer. So if I have a -7 right here, that means that I definitely need to go to the left 7 spaces. So let's go ahead and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to stop. I'm going to put that arrowhead on there to show which direction I went, which was left. And then, just like the other day, once we finish with our last integer, we're going to drop down and we're going to go ahead and circle where we end, which is -10. Our answer is -10. I'm hoping you would already know that, but now you have verified and you have proved it on a number line. You are modeling that verification. So let's go ahead and look at B. Same thing, remember, any subtraction really is adding the opposite. So I can see B here says -8 minus or subtract -2. So that subtracting is actually going to become an addition sign as long as I change that second integer to its opposite. So let's rewrite that. So now the problem -8 subtract -2 becomes -8 plus, and the opposite of negative 2 is positive 2. So we now have our problem. Negative 8 minus negative 2 is the same thing as negative 8 plus 2. Now, just like we always do when we're modeling on that number line, we're going to start with our first integer, which is negative 8. Now be careful, because like I told you, look to see how they're counting. And each line here actually looks like it's 2. So don't let them confuse you on that. So we're going to go ahead and start at the negative 8, which is right here. So I'm going to put that dot straight up above it. And now we use that second integer to tell us the direction to move. And that second integer is a positive 2. So we are going to be going to the right 2 spaces. And remember, they're counting by 2s. So that means you're really only going over to that first number here, dropping it down, because now I have no more integers, and my answer would be negative 6. Now what happens if we look at C? Notice I have more than just 2 integers. That's not going to stop me. It's going to do the exact same thing whether I have 2, 3, 5, or 10. Still, whenever I see subtracting, which I do, I know subtracting really means to add, so I'm going to change that to add the opposite of the number over to the right. So let's rewrite this problem. Instead of 2 plus 1, subtract 5, I'm going to make this 2 plus 1 plus, and then that 5 becomes a negative 5. So now I can read my problem as totally addition. Now my number line's already there, so let's go ahead and start with that first integer. And my first integer is 2. So I'm going to go to the positive 2 right here on that number line and put that dot straight up. Now that second integer is a positive 1. Well, positive means you are going to go to the right. I'm going to go to the right 1 place. And I put my arrow so I can see the direction I'm going. Now this is the one difference. I'm not done. I still have another integer. And that other integer is negative 5. And a negative, we know, means to go to the left. So since I'm not done, I'm not going to drop down at that 3 and circle it. I'm not finished. So I'm actually going to show, now I'm going to go left 5 places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put in arrowheads because I want to know the direction you just went. And now there is no more integers. So now I can drop it down, circle it, and I get my answer of negative 2. So really, we are going through those same steps, whether it is 2 integers, 3 integers, or 4 integers. We're going to do actually another problem in class. You can go ahead and write your letter D down there for me, and we will go ahead and review this. So make sure you take those notes and turn them in.